Welcome. You're listening and or watching to the next episode of Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio. And today I'm joined by Tommy Given, affectionately known as Uncle Tommy by many people. Tommy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to sit down and chat about nothing, which if you're a new listener, you might be wondering, how are they going to chat about nothing? Well, hang on. You'll find out in just a moment. If it is your first episode, first off, welcome. We are super happy to have you here with us. We here at Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio do a lot of things. This podcast is one of them. What Whistlekick does, all kinds of other things. And if you go to whistlekick.com, you will find out all of the things that we do. Maybe you want to find out information on our events that we run around the country. Maybe you want to purchase something like a t-shirt or a hat or something like that. Maybe you want to buy a book. Tommy's got a Whistlekick shirt on right now. Maybe you want to buy a book. Maybe you want to purchase a training program to get faster. Maybe you're interested in joining Whistlekick Alliance, which is our exclusive school owner program. All of that information can be found at whistlekick.com. If you go to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com, you will find information on this show. You can join our newsletter. There is a subscribe button at the top, so you'll get notified when every episode comes out. You also, at that website, you'll find transcripts and extra photos and all sorts of other things about all of the guests that we have. And if you would like to help support the show, our goal here is to connect, educate, and entertain traditional martial artists of the world. If you'd like to help us achieve that, you can do that by helping support us financially through Patreon. patreon.com/whistlekick. And for as little as $5 a month, that's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks these days. For $5 a month, you really truly do make a difference and help make this show happen. So we would certainly appreciate anything you can do over there. And even if you can't contribute financially, maybe you will share this episode with a friend. Tell somebody about it. Help us spread the word and help us to educate, entertain, and connect all of the martial artists, traditional martial artists that we can. But here we are, you and I, Tommy. The goal is to have no goal. This episode is a Martial Things. Should we call it Martial Things with Uncle Tommy?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, so there we go. Martial Things with Uncle Tommy. We're here to just hang out and chat martial arts. So, Tommy, what's going on in your world these days, martial art wise? What's up?
Well, martial art wise, kind of a lot. It's that time of year. I've been judging and refereeing a lot of the local tournaments and that kind of thing, and some not so local. That always keeps me busy, and scheduled to do a lot of seminars coming up. Actually, I got one with our friend Abby at Elements coming up in a couple of weeks with Sifu Steve. He's going to be joining us there. I'll be at Aaron Hoops up at Dragon Mountain soon. I'm working on a schedule with Craig to do the Karate International down there in Exeter, New Hampshire. Just all over. I have one scheduled in Boston. Supposed to meet up with Mark again. Mark Warner over there in Ipswich. I have a few invites, and then in upstate New York, I different schools too. So yeah, I'm fairly busy. Plus my own school that I'm running, and then my daily workout. So it's fun.
Now, your school is interesting in that it is one of the few schools that I know that it is 100% free for students to come and train with you. You hold a class weekly, as I understand it, on Wednesday nights, but you don't charge anything, and it's not like you couldn't. So you and I haven't talked a lot about that, but I'm curious, what made you decide to offer a martial art class for free?
Right. Well, it was a gradual thing. I don't want to say I woke up one morning and voila. But a little bit of my history. I suffered with juvenile diabetes since a very young age, and my family always said that this martial arts is what kept me alive. And then I also was involved in a lot of other things where martial arts helped me out a lot. I did, high detail security. I worked for Wells Fargo and Pinkerton and, the Whacking Hut, Burns International, just to name a few. And then when I became a lineman, electrical lineman, I was still teaching on the side, but for other people and other schools, and they would bring me in, or I would do a weekly class there. And then when I retired, I started out first with just law enforcement and military vets. And I lived next to Norwich Academy, which is the second oldest military academy in the country. It's the next town over. So I was doing a class there already, and they were paying me, I don't know, it was whatever it was, not a lot. And I'm like, you know what? Let's offer a free one for law enforcement and military. So I asked around the local businesses and that kind of thing, and next you know, there's space donated. As long as I didn't charge, they wouldn't charge me. Then I went around to the local businesses, and they said, "Listen, you do this, we'll pay your insurance." So, which was the biggest nut, in having a school, because we do spar, we do break-in, we do actual self-defense. It's all it's realistic. So, and it's a combination of kung fu and other styles. So there's contact involved, and they were just all for it. And so, after about 3 months, my little town, like a lot of northern New England towns, was devastated with the opioid crisis. And I'm going back like almost 15 years ago now. And there's just nothing for kids to do around here, especially in the winter. I mean, there's the ski resorts. That's not for everyone, nor is it affordable for everyone. I don't even know what a lift ticket costs these days. So I said, let's open it up to the community. And they all joined on board. And I figured it was my way to give back, too. I love giving back. It's the way I am. I volunteer for other stuff, outside of martial arts as well. And it just seemed like a natural fit. So I advertised just on Facebook, and then the little, front porch forum kind of thing, and been going ever since. And there's a lot of students, so it's pretty good. I have an all ages class at 5, where the youngest one is 4 and the oldest one is 84. I have a traditional weapons class where we do silat and arnis and eskrima and other, kalai. And then I do a kung fu self-defense advanced class after that. But it's all free. And then on the side, at a local campground, I do a women's self-defense, a single mothers kind of thing. And it's an overall self-defense. It's not strictly martial arts. It's awareness. Kind of like what Jason Brick does, in that whole awareness part of things. And then I also teach in 3 of the local public schools.
Yep. So, I mean, and when you think about it, when you run a martial arts school, I would say you probably have your 2 biggest expenses are likely location, whether it's rent or you mortgage if you own your own building, which I know is rare, but some people do it. But, your location is probably your biggest expense. And then your secondary expense would be your insurance. And you're able to offer these free classes because your space is donated for free.
Yep.
And you mentioned you have local businesses donating enough money to cover your insurance.
Right. It's not just businesses too. There's a church involved that got on board with it. The building that we're in now is actually we take over the basement of this church and convert it over to my school. It's not a religious class. Don't get me wrong. It's it's completely secular in that sense, but it is a good family environment. So they welcomed it, and they look at it as kind of an outreach, the same way that I do. Just the community, not preaching anything. Just here we are, and so it's nice too because there's a shower facility there. So we'll bring in homeless people and let them take a shower, give them something to eat. That just just being neighborly, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
and putting my skills out there. Yeah,
and you are doing something for the community because you're giving a place for these kids to go if they don't have anything to do, right? You're keeping them occupied. You're working with them, and then teaching these other women's self-defense classes and
Right.
things like that. So it's nice to see that a community has gotten involved. Now, I have to imagine that didn't just, you weren't sitting on your couch one day and all of a sudden business has called you. I mean, you had to go out and be involved with your community first, right?
Well, I did solicit a lot. I'm fairly well known. I mean, I live in a town of 3,500 people, so we've met.
Sure.
So, but the biggest part was in the beginning is like there were two schools of thought, two camps. One was he can't be that good if he's teaching for free, and then the ones who knew me were like, dude, with your credentials, why would you teach for free? And it took that bridge was the hardest part, to show people like, you can be good at something and still volunteer your time. Kind of like Habitat for Humanity. Those laborers, those carpenters, those electricians, those plumbers are the tops of their trade, but they volunteer their time to give back. So,
yeah.
And I did a lot of the Habitat for Humanity when I was, an electrical lineman. So we would go into a place, and that's where the birth of it came, if I'm being totally honest. So,
yeah, I dig it, but getting out in the community and getting that community support is huge. And how long have you been doing that now?
I think our 10th year anniversary is coming up soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah. 10 years in the look where we are now as Green Mountain Martial Arts Club.
Yeah. Now, we are recording this in July, which in New England tends to be a little hotter. We typically, during the summer, a lot of schools will have a drop in students. Is that something that you manage how do you manage that in your school? Do you have a lot of that?
I probably have less than most schools, because it is a lot of the people that come in are not ones to go on vacations or sport camps and that kind of thing. Some do, obviously. There are some, but I also gain because a lot of my older students, even from when I used to be a paid teacher, if they're on college, now they're home. So they come in and they hang out. I get a lot of those. The military academy, they come in during the summer because they're looking for things to do. Not all of them go back home, and they're just on campus, because that's a secular school as well. They have a big nursing program and other things. And then it kind of rotates, and then I teach at the summer camps. So they bring me in. One of the people that brings me in is a former student of mine. So, she's like, listen, this guy, all these kids out here that feel that it'll be a blast. And they're like, well, he's just going to give them orders. He goes, oh, no, he'll be out there with them. So, like we did mudsliding like last week when it was raining. We just set up a hill to mudsliding, but you had to come up and do a kung fu move about the person already waiting. So they go down the mud, they have to get up, and they do like a 1 or 2 step sparring kind of thing, or defend yourself, and then they rotate. So I had 18 kids up there rotating, doing this mudslide, getting up and going at it. So,
oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, and of course I joined the line.
Oh yeah.
But when I got up, they just kind of run. So, but it was fun. It was fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Definitely very unique. Not many people I know of are teaching classes in the mud.
Well, what happens if you're in a scenario though? I mean, the world doesn't stop for no one. So if it's raining out and an idiot thing happens.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think I was chatting with Tashi Mark about, that exact sort of thing, like training in different environments because you never know.
Yeah. Have you ever hung out with Mark for a day?
I mean, only at events.
So Tashi's that kind of guy where you're walking in a parking lot and all of a sudden, like, you're behind this car. What are you going to do? I mean, he lives that. If you're hiking in the woods, it's, he brings his camera out and just kind of goes with it. Whatever you're wearing, if you're in street clothes, he'll just say, "Listen, let's try something." And he lives that. He truly. So he's a unique guy too.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Unique is a great word to describe him. Although, a lot of people might say the same of you, Tommy.
Well, it's flattering. So I don't know. I look at myself. I'm probably more eclectic than unique. I have. Well, I don't know, who knows? Well, you tell me. Like,
I mean, unique is. Eclectic is lots of different things, right?
Right.
Unique is, unique, not one of a kind, but very rare.
That works.
You're unique. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my love for hound dogs is kind of unique.
That's true. You do have a big love of hound dogs.
He's staring at you right now.
Do they join you in class?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sam used to, the one that passed. Sam did all the time. Cooper does, but Cooper has a typical hound dog, the attention span of nothing. So, but he loves to play. He'll hang out. He'll definitely, especially when I'm teaching outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they come in the winter if it's like storming out, but class didn't cancel or whatever. He's with me. Thunderstorms, I take him with me if there's like a threat of thunderstorms, because he's a dog. It doesn't like them.
Sure.
So I take him. And the kids love him, and the adults love him too. So,
well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah. So, but being a hound dog, he has an odor. So what's a
Okay. So, now, how do you defend against that then?
You walk away, or you just embrace the suck, as some people say, because he's a hound dog, so they have that oily. It's not bad. I'm exaggerating now.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but sometimes if no one's met them and they go to give him a hug, you can see their face like, that's the hound dog. So,
but I jokingly said, "How do you defend against that?" And you gave a perfectly appropriate answer, which was you walk away. One of the best ways to not get into a fight one of the best ways to not get beaten in a fight is to not get into a fight.
Yeah, not be in it, right? Yeah. What is it? Walk a mile to avoid a fight, but once you're in it, don't back down an inch. Is that? I think I've heard that said.
Yeah. But if you can avoid the fight altogether,
avoid it, you're not be there, right?
You're definitely not going to lose.
Yeah. Well, it's like to Enter the Dragon. Bruce Lee sending the guy out on the island or in that little boat.
Oh yeah. Sure.
He's like, I'm not there. You're fighting all by yourself. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in that, and I know we've talked about it before on the show. Jeremy and I have. If you have the opportunity, if you want to learn self-defense, and you've got one guy over here that's never been in a fight ever in his life, and then you've got another guy over here who's been in a gazillion street fights, where would you go?
For pizza at that point in time. I mean, you have to kind of come together. The guy who is obviously skilled and been there and should be aware enough to realize, okay, this is not, it's not going to go well for him. I mean,
yeah, why is it? But no, my point is, if I want to learn from somebody, I've got this guy over here I could learn from that he's been in 5,000 street fights. And then you've got this guy over here who's never been in a fight in his life because he's avoided them always. He has learned how to not get into a fight.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's wisdom there.
Yeah, like, right? If this guy over here has had the opportunity or potentially could have been in fights and was able to extricate himself verbally or whatever, like, that's the guy I want to train with. Like, why is this guy over here? Why has he been in 500 or 5,000 fights or whatever? Like, is he just a jerk? Like, I don't want to learn from that guy.
Right, he could be a bully. Yeah, narcissistic bully, just or jerk, like you said, or knows he has skills and for whatever, exploiting. Yeah, I agree with you there 100%. So,
those soft skills, as people often call them, right?
Yeah,
The being able to avoid, those things are probably the hardest things to learn.
I would agree.
Like I could teach anybody to punch and kick, and how to do this takedown or whatever, blah 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 blah. But being able to learn those soft skills of how to check your ego and walk away and extricate yourself, or verbally de-escalate the situation, people call those the soft skills, but those are harder to learn.
They're harder, and it's true confidence at that point too, because you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, especially like my town, chances are we've met. So
That's fair. Yeah.
But but you're right though, and that other point too, in that is, it's, what is that quote? A peaceful warrior is somebody who's capable of great violence but chooses not to.
Yep.
Right. So versus harmless or a bully. Right. Those are the other two extremes. So that's good stuff.
Do you? I'm curious. Do you have some of those verbal de-escalation tricks or things, like phrases that you use that you teach your students?
I do, and well, it's kind of my personality as well, because I can be a smart mouth. So, and fairly quick, witted. So, but it depends on the situation. I mean, I remember, like one de-escalation said, listen, like when I was doing security, look, I don't want to fight and you don't want a broken arm.
Yeah.
That gets them thinking enough where they realize, okay, wait a minute. Now, could that escalate that? It can be a little antagonizing, but it was kind of like my job to put that in check a little bit. Then I would say, listen, you know what? We don't have to do this. And then, I would many times start bringing up, listen, I'm diabetic. I can only go for a Diet Coke. You want to go for a soda? And then that will de-escalate a lot too. Another one is, just because you have an emotion doesn't mean it's a good one, and it doesn't mean you need to act on it.
Sure.
So where do you want to go from here? If it's a heated argument, at that point I tell a lot of them, sit down and write a note, and then give it to them. And they're like, why? I said, because you can't read and speak at the same time. And so I just say, like, I'm sorry, or I don't want to go there. A little thing, or even write it on your phone and show it to them. Just there it is. And then I also try to find comedy in it as well. And I don't know, I can't come up with one off the top of my head at the second, but something that turned that hard situation into something funny. Hey, listen, I really don't want to be on the 6 o'clock news tonight, do you? And that
I get that.
Yeah, it works, right? So the only time I really, like, where I have to put my temper in check at that point, then I walk away. I just simply, or back away, I should say. I don't turn my back necessarily and walk away. But I back away and say, listen, this ain't good.
Yeah. I think, it's difficult for some people to put their ego aside, right? Because it's not nobody wins in a street. Nobody wins in a fight.
Never.
In a real fight. Nobody wins, right? You might walk away, but that doesn't mean you won, right? The one that I have, and I've used this. I've actually, this is something that has worked for me.
Okay.
Often these types of things will happen in a drinking establishment, a bar, a pub, or whatever. And when someone else, like this is the scenario that I was in. I was watching the door because I was waiting for somebody to come in. I was with a couple of people and we're waiting for a third person to come in. And this guy and his girl happened to be kind of in line of sight. So I kept looking at the door, but to this guy who had clearly had a couple of drinks, I'm looking at his girl and I keep looking at her, and he eventually, and I didn't even, I mean, I saw that he was there, but I wasn't looking
right
at the two of them. I was looking at the door, And he like slams his beer down and it's like, hey man, what are you looking at? And I could have obviously just said, oh, I'm not looking at you, I'm looking at the door. But I could be lying, right? He doesn't know. He's obviously had a few beers.
Right.
So I said, I'm so sorry. Is your name Josh?
Yeah.
And he's like, what? No. And I was like, I'm really sorry. You look just like my friend Josh from high school, who I haven't seen in like 25 years. I am so sorry. I swear I thought you were Josh. Hey, let me buy you a beer, whatever. But in this case, I didn't have to buy him a beer. But like just something to like make them realize, oh, it's not what I thought it was.
So we actually do a class on that a couple of times a year. And we bring like Sifu Steve Watson in there because he has a very jolly personality. And
sure.
And it will, there's a lot of people that can do it, but we go over those same scenarios. And I remember somebody saying they did that, only the girl, he's like, are you Melody? And
Yep.
then kind of brushed it off. And I remember one time this guy was like, what are you looking at? And I was like, that shirt, man, where did you get that shirt?
Yeah, exactly.
Literally diffuses, that scenario, or like, what's wrong with you? My mom died, it's the anniversary of it. And you just kind of de-escalate, even though that's a sad one, it takes the emotion that charged, out of it. I even seen a video. There's a guy on YouTube that he calls it, I think he calls it BBJ or something, but how to talk your way, how to de-escalate, or verbal jujitsu. That's what he calls it.
Yeah.
I think And do you know Jim Berger or Jeff Berger?
Not personally.
Okay, yeah, he does a lot of those too. And being in Boston, he's mastered that skill. So, and for him, it's just bring up the Red Sox or Patriots, and you can pretty much, right, or the Bruins, and de-escalate anything. So
yeah. That's true.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, what else? What else is going on? What else can we chat about?
I don't. Well, there. Let's see. Well, how are you doing? Like, I mean, so
I'm good. I'm good.
Surgery, post surgery now, and
Yep. So it's been my surgery was in February. It's now July. And it's I had two surgeries. One was on the ankle, so on the side of the foot, and that is healing and doing really well. I also had a surgery on the bottom of my foot, on the ball of my foot, and that's causing me way more difficulty right now in terms of healing and getting back to normal. My foot is still numb. It's still difficult to. I can't walk 100%. I kind of still hobble. I don't need a cane anymore, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think.
Is it your bass foot or your hi-hat foot?
It's my bass drum foot. So for those that don't know, I'm a drummer, and I play in a rock band. We just got back yesterday from a gig in Pennsylvania, and it's my right foot, and I'm right-handed, so it's my bass drum foot, and having to work through that has been difficult. But I haven't been to class. I haven't been able to really train with my instructor. I'm still doing stuff on my own at home. But for the most part, I haven't been doing a ton. And so my plan is on Thursday to go to class for the first time. So I'm really excited about that.
Do you find that emotionally, the healing part is as much mental as it is physical for you right now? Or are you past that part where you realize that you were injured and it's going to take time?
Yeah, I think I'm past it mentally. I think it's important to, if you are, and I know I've talked about this in past episodes, but if you are going to go through a surgery, make sure you go in with a clear understanding of what your recovery will be like.
Yeah.
For me, I did not expect the recovery to be what it was. Now, it makes sense that it is what it is, but I didn't think of it because I had never had surgery before like this.
Yeah.
When I before the surgery, he said that my surgeon said that I would have to be non-weight bearing for 6 weeks. So the surgery was in mid-February. So I'm like, okay, 6 weeks. So by the end of March, I'll be able to, put weight on it and start walking again. And he's like, yes. Well, that's only partially true. Yes, I could put weight on it and I could start walking, but I mean, I should be putting walking in air quotes because I wasn't walking. I'm still not truly walking. It's July and my surgery was in February. So I didn't have a clear understanding really of what my recovery would be like. But I mentally now I'm past that. It is what it is. I just have to keep going and, move past it and keep doing the best I can.
Yeah. Anytime I've had a serious injury, I mean, I'm a knucklehead, so I'll just pop out of bed and then realize, you idiot, you can't do that. So now I'm crawling down the hallway to, or back into bed to, repicture myself. Oh man, or you hit your hand kind of thing, or for a while I had hand surgeries. I had 3 of them.
And wow, you have 3 hands.
Well, not 2 in one hand, 1 in the other, but that's good. But for the longest time, I could not grip my electrical pliers right. So a lineman that can't carry his pliers, that was tough. Mentally. I mean, I got around it. You start using your left hand more or whatever, but for that, just to grab it and go, that took a while.
And that's a martial trait in and of itself, right? Just keep going. You have to find a way to make it work.
Right. So, and I did all kinds of things. I put gauze in between it. I used my left hand a lot more. But I'm fairly ambidextrous, so it wasn't that tough. My left hand's not as strong as my right hand, so if I had to really twist on something, so then I was able to put a bar in the plier and kind of use that as a crank. Just figuring stuff out to make it work. Just like in martial arts, when I don't know how many times you go to, you've probably been through this. You go to class, and the students that you thought were going to show up didn't, and the ones that did show up, you haven't seen in 3 or 4 months. That a curriculum that you had in your mind that day was not going to work.
Yep.
So you have to be on the fly and go with it, and those usually end up the funnest class because you're totally just going off the seat of your pants, and go with it. So, or I'll ask them what they want to do, and those become fun. So that's always a good thing too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You find a way to alter it, you make it work. And I had to do the same thing with drumming because my right foot is the foot that's hurt. And a month and a half, I had just barely been able to start walking. I got asked to audition for this rock band. And, I was upfront and honest with them and said, hey, I would love to do this. It sounds like a lot of fun, but I just barely had surgery on my foot 6-7 weeks ago. I don't even know if I could play drum set. And so, after a couple of weeks of going back and forth and talking on the phone with them, I said, all right, I'm going to give this a try. But what I did, and I'm really smart, and drummers in the audience will know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'll try to describe it as best I can. So when you play, if you're right-handed, your right foot is on the bass drum. Well, I started out, I went down to my drum set and I tried, and my right foot said, absolutely not. What the heck are you trying to do? I'm not ready to do this yet. So I switched everything on my drum kit to the opposite side so that I was pretending to be a left-handed player. And I put my left foot on the bass drum. And when you play drum set, you have to use both feet anyway. So it's not super uncommon to do, but it's not done a lot. And I started playing lefty. And I was like, you know what? This isn't too bad. I could do this. But it got to be a pain to switch my drum set back and forth because...
I was gonna say, you had to do the Phil Collins thing.
So I was like, this is a pain. So I actually went and I bought a double bass drum pedal, which exists. You put it on your bass drum. This is for the audience. I know you know what I'm talking about, Tommy, but You put it on your bass drum and you've got 2 pedals, one for your right and one for your left. And both of them connect to a beater that hits your bass drum. So now I could leave my drum set up for right-handed, but I could use my left foot to play the bass drum. So I had to adapt. I found a way to adapt to make it work. And then after a while, my right foot got comfortable enough to be able to play. And so it's not as big an issue now. My right foot is still not what it was before the surgery, but I can play my bass drum with it, which is good.
Yeah, so that totally unmartial arts related for a second though. I did watch the clips of you guys, and dude, I'm a fan now. We are. When you're up in this area, I already talked to Aaron. We're gonna go to that festival. We're gonna see if we could drag like Corey and other people from Vermont over there, and yeah.
But but that's the martial concept, is you find a way to make it work.
Right.
And sometimes in class you will, and I'm sure you've had this before, you're teaching a technique, and you're doing whatever, and the student will say, well, what if they do this? And it's like, well, okay, well, I'll do something different. I'll adapt. I mean, and I have often used that as a teaching tool. Like, okay, let's figure it out together. If this is a technique that I want to do, but the person we're doing the technique on does this other thing, what could we do, right? But it's all about that figuring it out.
So I do a different approach than that. It's the same concept though. I never tell my students, hit me in the face, or take your right hand and hit me in the chest. I say, hit me, and they have whatever choice they want, and then whatever comes, I show them that technique, and then that's the technique that we work on. So if I want to do over something, for example, if I want to do circle blocks, however they are, however which way, whether full or semi or outward or inward, however that is, I can show them how that works. And left, right, left, whatever combo they want, and how if you keep it on the inside, a lot of people like Kempo 5-star and that kind of thing. If you keep it in the inside, which is a lot of Kung Fu, it doesn't matter what they throw at you. And I never tell them to hold it out there either, because
sure.
Yeah, I mean, you follow it back home or you do whatever it is, because if you hold it out there, I don't know, that's the one thing on videos that sometimes I kind of crack up. I understand they're doing a technique and they're demonstrating it. And a reverse punch, you want to hold it on that person because that's where it hurts. There's a lot more power in that sticky punch concept, but that's not everybody's going to go up there and do that. And most people who know how to throw a sticky punch are not ones you're going to get in a fight with, because that goes back to what we said earlier. That's somebody who's trained. They're like, I don't want to fight, and you don't either. So, it's pretty good. But I don't do that. I think you probably see me do that in class too, where just throw something. We'll go from there, because that's usually when they throw something. That's the thing they kind of want to defend from too. Because subconsciously it's right, and or it's that right hand haymaker thing, which is like, okay, you'll never throw that again, but.
Well, and that's why that's why people often say, let's face it, Tommy, how often are you going to get attacked by another martial artist out on the street?
Probably never.
You're not. You're not, because we typically we're training to not get into fights, right?
Right. Yeah, and the guy who wants to challenge me, I'm not hard to find. Come to the school and watch for a little bit. And if you still want to challenge afterward, then you're on your own. Because I'm not going to meet you out there. It's So it happens. And, I've actually gotten students that way.
Oh, interesting. I love it.
Yeah, with the whole keyboard warrior thing, and I tend not to want to go down that troll alley. But once in a while, it's like, are you sincere? Are you really curious on what I would do or not do? Here, this is where I'm at. I'm not hard to find. It's not going to cost you anything but gas to get here. I'll even feed you when you get here if you want, if you're hungry. And that they realize that it's an art. It's truly an art. It's not about throwing stones at somebody.
Yeah.
Although we do hit each other with sticks.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, Uncle Tommy, as many call you. I appreciate you being here.
This was fun.
So for the people listening or watching, again, check out Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio to find out show notes on this episode and all of the over 1,000 other episodes that we have. Whistlekick.com is where you can go to find out about everything else that we do, whether it's purchasing books or training programs or apparel or finding out about Whistlekick Alliance. Maybe you want to come to a martial art teacher training certification that we're running, or maybe you want to come to one of the events that we host throughout the U.S.
Can I say something
Tommy,
on that?
I can see. Yeah, Tommy, I can see you want to say something.
Yeah. So on the MATIC training, the martial art training thing, anybody, whether you've been teaching for decades or you just started within the last year, I encourage you to take that class. When I first took the class, and it was a good friend of ours, Jenny Nether, asked me, come take this class with me. I want to sit with you through it. I'm like, you know what? Let's do this. I knew the teachers that are giving it, and I was so impressed, and I learned so much. And I've been at that point teaching for decades, and it was so good. I went and took it again, and to do it twice because there was that much information. Like I realized the first time I was just too busy taking notes or trying to absorb it, and then like, you know what? The second time I just did the exercises. I just did the course, and I'm scheduled to do MATIC too when that becomes available. And I didn't want you to forget about Free Training Day Northeast and Pennsylvania. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I got excited though. Yeah,
I appreciate that. You've given us some nice testimonials. We certainly appreciate that.
Yeah.
So martial art teacher training and certification. You go online and you can find out about it. All of the events that we host, Martial Summit here in New England, Free Training Day Mid-Atlantic is still coming up in September. All that stuff you can find at whistlekick.com. And look, Tommy's holding up he's got a postcard right there, 3rd Annual Martial Summit. So we'd love to see you there. We'd appreciate you coming and checking it out. And if you want to help support the show, you can leave a review on Apple Podcast or give us 5 stars if you'd like, if you think it's worth 5 stars on Spotify or any other platform that you can. You can support us financially through Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick, or just tell a friend. Share this episode with somebody you think might have a good time.
The Patreon thing is a good thing. You get a lot of tidbits that you don't get without it. I'm in the medium range. There's like three things that you could pick. I'm in the medium one, and you get like first dibs on a lot of these episodes and stuff like that. And again, I'm not trying to pitch them up because Andrew's a friend of mine, but it's if you're into martial arts and you're looking for a family, it's where you want to go.
Look no further.
It's where you want to go.
Next time, train hard, smile, and have a great day.